this is my turning point. This is the one. And that was it for me. And that day I made a choice. I made a choice to be better. I made a choice to not be a victim of my cancer and to never blame my cancer for who I am and who I want to be. And ever since that day, I've been living by that choice. And then something really funny happened. Because over the course of a number of years, it doesn't happen overnight, the voices that were in here, they changed. And they changed to positivity. They changed to me speaking to myself in the third person, almost as if I gave myself an alter ego. And because I was thinking differently, my experience was different. Opportunities were opening up in front of me, left, right, and centre. Perhaps they weren't opening up, but perhaps I was just seeing them for the first time.
Welcome to the Success Times Happiness podcast, a platform dedicated to engaging discussions with inspiring individuals aimed at nurturing personal development. I'm Richard Thompson, your host, a father, entrepreneur, world champion Ultraman, and passionate about all things high performance. Our mission is to empower both ourselves and you to unlocking our fullest potential, recognizing that this life is no dress rehearsal. While I may not have all the answers, this show serves as our collective journey to uncover them. Today, we sit down with Bart Walsh, a keynote speaker, fitness coach, and cancer survivor whose incredible journey has inspired so many. Bart is not just a man who has overcome great personal and physical challenges, but someone who has taken those experiences and turned them into a powerful message of choice and resilience. From his battle with cancer at a young age to his ongoing work in the fitness industry and motivational speaking, all in readiness for him to endure two of his biggest challenges life could ever throw at you. Despite this, Bart embodies what it means to shake off life's hardships and rise above them. His story is raw and deeply moving, and his passion for helping others to find strength through adversity makes him truly inspiring. Expect to learn how Bart's battle with cancer shaped his outlook on life and his personal philosophy on choice, the importance of resilience and owning your circumstances, no matter how difficult they are, and his approach to living with purpose, even when dealing with extreme adversity, and so much more. There are some serious topics covered in this episode, ones that properly hit home to me, and I lost it a couple of times. I thank Bart from the bottom of my heart for being his truest self and being vulnerable enough to share his story. This is one of my favorites. All right, let's jump on in. You are making waves in the corporate speaking, motivational speaking community. Tell me, what's your number one message to the audience?
Look, there's a few, and it'll differ to who I'm talking to, but the overarching message is that we really don't need to settle. You know, I think a lot of people unconsciously choose mediocrity, whether they're actively choosing it or not. And because of that, they feel stuck and they feel overwhelmed and they start blaming others, and then they start unconsciously feeling themselves to be a victim. But I'm a believer that in any situation, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, there's always a choice to be better and to move forward. And I suppose it's my mission to empower people to see that and to understand that. So if they want to be a better mother, a better brother, a better gamer, a better archer, whatever they want to be, they can choose to be that, but they first must need to take that first step, and it is to choose. As a secondary gain, a secondary benefit, is this idea of mastering what's up here. Because I've had a lot of bad things happen to me, subjectively and objectively. And I've found that harnessing everything that I'm saying in here to myself first, all of a sudden makes all of this just so much easier. And I grew up as an actor. We can probably talk about that a little bit later, but I love the art of storytelling and connection and communication. And so there's the keynote speaking world, being up on stage, influencing people with my words and my story, it hits me on a deeper level than anything else. So there's nothing better I love more than being able to make people feel something through this power of choice and through this realization that their perception is their reality.
So what I'm hearing is like you're empowering people to take ownership of their situation. As we go through life, and everyone's experience is different, but I think what's common is that at some point the rug will be pulled from underneath us. To what level, to what extent, it's not necessarily the fact that that's comparable, whether it's subjective or objective, that it's been traumatic, but it's having that ability to take ownership of how you perceive something and then how you pivot and move forward, as you said. That's the power, right?
I love that word, ownership. And someone told me this many years ago in relative to mental health. And they said, look, it may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. And if you don't take that responsibility, if you don't own it, in whatever pain you experience, you are letting it or them or whoever it may be win. And so I suppose to peek behind the curtain a little bit, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 23.
So take me back before then. You were an actor. What did that look like? What did life look like? It
was the quintessential bohemian lifestyle, mate. It was, my parents encouraged me to pursue what I loved. And I really respect their decision to do that, particularly when I loved acting, I loved theatrics. There's no secure salary in that world. And they were teachers. My entire family is pretty much teachers. And I was the black sheep that wanted to do something else. So they encouraged me to follow and pursue this dream. And because of this, I love stories and I love making people feel something. And so I went to university, and the 3 years I spent at university were very formative, as it is for a lot of young men. But they're particularly formative for me because of the degree I was doing. It was an acting degree, a Bachelor of Arts in Acting. And it's a very different university experience than most people are probably used to. So in the first year, they break you down. They say how you're breathing wrong, you're moving wrong, you're speaking wrong. In the second year, they build you back up, and they bring in, teachings from Greek mythology, quintessential Stanislavski methods of acting, some very, very sort of 1950s, 1960s Americana style acting, the method, all that sort of stuff. And then in the third year, it's all about professional practice. But during that entire process, it's an introspection on you. So you go, all right, I need to be, here's a piece of prose and here's a piece of text. I need to move in this way. I need to speak in this way. And I need to be a blank canvas before I can do that. And at the end of third year, I was lucky enough to get an agent, which is a very rare thing to happen. We do a showcase presentation at the end of third year, and those that are lucky enough get picked up. And I was one of those lucky enough. And I started doing the whole auditioning process. I understood what it was like to be on camera, on the TV, and in the movies. And I learned that that's not for me. It's too transactional. I love the story. I love the feeling. I love the emotion. And having to say one line and then spend 2 hours in a trailer to come out and say one other line.
Sure.
It ruined the magic for me. I love it, and I think I still consume it, but I understood that wasn't for me. And so the stage was where I was at. And so I did a few gigs, I did a few plays, I did a few TV shows as well, absolutely. And all the while, I was still on the fence of whether I wanted to do this or not. I didn't know what my future would hold. And I'll remember this day for the rest of my life. I was on a tram. I was coming back from an audition in St Kilda. The audition was for a Devondale commercial. So the dairy company?
Yeah.
It was, ads are nuts, mate. So it's a 30-second ad. It paid $40,000. I didn't get it.
Right.
It was very sad, trust me. I was on this tram. It was a hot day. There were leather seats, and I felt this little lump under my jaw. And one thing you need to know about me is I'm very good. I used to be very good at sweeping things under the carpet. Quintessential toxic masculinity. Push it down so you can't see it, and it's not there until it bottles up. And I was very good at that. So I felt this lump, and I thought nothing of it. And then about 2 months later, it grew to the size of a baseball, about 10.2 centimeters in diameter, about the size of your fist. And it was just sitting on the side of my jaw. It was very obvious. And so I went and did the responsible thing, and I went and saw a doctor. And this first doctor said, yep, that thing shouldn't be there. Let's just cut it out, call it a day, and move forward. And so I said, great, doc, love the cut of your jib. Let's get to it. And then the night before the operation, I remember this, it was like 4:30 p.m. on a Friday. It was Thursday. It was a very, very strange time. And I got a call from the receptionist, and she said, look, this doctor forgot he was going on holiday the next day. So we're going to have to postpone or reschedule your operation. And I said, okay, that's okay. I'd be disappointed. But there was a voice in the back of my head that said, get a second opinion anyway. And so I did. And this doctor did the responsible thing. He did the biopsies, the scans, probably what you should normally do. And he invited me into his office one day. And he sat me down, and I knew something was wrong. Because he wasn't sitting in front of me, he sat next to me. And he told me, he said, the 3 words no one should ever hear. You have cancer. And then he told me about the operation and the radiation therapy that would follow. I met a great man named Ben Dixon, a surgeon at St. Vincent Hospital. Not sure if he's still there, but he's like 20 foot tall, really tall guy, really nice guy. And he told me about my operation. He said, yeah, we're going to cut out your jaw, but we're going to replace it with a bone in your leg. And so the tumor will sit on the jaw that we remove, and your fibula will become your new jaw. And then we're going to craft a bottom of your mouth and outside of your mouth with skin from your upper leg, from your quad. We're pretty much going to ravage
your legs.
Yep.
To sort of fit, to
give you a jaw.
Yeah.
And he said like he does it every day, because he does do it every day. And I was fascinated by this, terrified. Don't get me wrong, but fascinated that the body can work in that way. And so the big day came. It was 16 hours under the knife.
Bart.
Yeah, a long time. And then I woke up, and I was the closest thing to a zombie that you can think of. I was breathing through a hole in my neck because of quite big swelling in my jaw. I was eating through a tube in my nose. And I don't often tell people this, but the most annoying part was this inflatable leg brace on my good leg to promote recovery, to promote blood flow, because I'll be sitting down for a very long time. So every 30 seconds or whatever, it would inflate and then deflate. 24 hours, but days and weeks.
It's like a Normatec boot, just sitting there for weeks on one leg.
It's like it's another version of like that drip torture method. I felt it was not to get too morbid. But it's funny because I remember my time in hospital quite fondly. Like, I was in a bit of pain. I was medicated to the gills, absolutely. But I had so much support. I had my family around me, my partner at the time, and the nurses in the hospital. Something magic happens when you're 23 years old, and you're in a hospital bed for a long time, but you're surrounded by people who are 50, 60, 70 in excess. The nurses are drawn to you because there's some sort of, I don't know, relative age connection. So they really looked after me. They put me in the deluxe suite by myself. So I think I felt as good as you could feel through that entire process. And I should say, up until this point, I know that I didn't feel the true weight of what I'm going through.
I was going to ask you, because yes, you're hedging on the acting thing, but you're objectively a good-looking human. You've got this run on for acting career, and then the doctor sits you down and says, we're going to actually basically rip your face apart. Can you recall, and you're pretty nonchalant about it now, but is everything in your stride? How are you processing that? Are you just saying, all right, let's get to the next day, or are you saying, shit, this is actually going to change the rest of my life?
There was a very selfish part of me that knew I was going to benefit from it somehow. Like, if I'm completely honest, the way I looked has never been important to me. Like, people always joke I have great hair and I really look after it, but I don't. I understand that the way someone looks can affect how people treat them, particularly in the acting industry. Like, there are roles I didn't get because I was an inch too tall. It's crazy. But I've got to say, at the time, I didn't really think much of it, and I don't know whether it was because of that. I don't know, that bulletproof feeling you have when you're younger. But I didn't comprehend cancer. I didn't digest it until years later. Suffice to say, I'm probably still digesting it now. But for me at the time, this was just a bump in the road. I just need to get through the next 6 weeks, feel what radiation therapy is like, and then recompute, readjust is acting for me. And so I suppose I did take it day by day from that point. But there was, between the operation and that point, there was radiation therapy. And look, I didn't have chemo. Chemo didn't affect the tumor that I have. And that's a whole cancer science conversation, So they said radiation therapy is the way to go.
Yep.
just blast every cell that might be remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awful because you go to the same place every day, and they pin you to a bed, and they make like this mesh mask so that you don't move. So every day you have to have this mask pinned to the bed if you're claustrophobic, you're having a really bad time, and they blast radiation straight into the direct cancer site, and the side effects. Physically, that was the worst I felt. I had ulcers all throughout my mouth.
Ugh.
I was missing like a patch of hair in the back of my head because the radiation, yeah, shot it
through.
off. Yeah, shows through your head.
Oh my God. I love that because my mum went through cancer over 20 years ago now, but it's interesting how you go to the radiation piece. Or even the chemo, but not that you did the chemo, but the radiation piece, they like set you all up and then they get the hell out of there.
They do. They run away behind a big barrier.
Yeah. And they're just like, no, thank you. And there's you just
all right,
copying it in the face. Oh, goodness.
But I've got to say, like, of that entire experience, one of the most depressing parts is, and you probably know this if you went to treatment with your mum, is the waiting room.
Yeah.
Like, because you're staring at 20 or 30 other people in the exact same situation that you at their lowest, and you don't really talk. You sort of give each other a nod, and you bond through this strange, morbid connection that you all have. That therapy brought me to my lowest. I think there was one moment in particular, and it was because of a medication that I had, and like when you're 23. And you're going through radiation therapy, they open up the medicine cabinet for you. So I had liters of morphine on repeat. I had every opiate you can think of, anti-nausea medication, the whole lot. But I think for whatever reason, I had a pretty old school doctor prescribing me these medications because there was one medication that I'll never forget that brought me to my lowest. And it was a mouthwash to numb all the ulcers in my mouth. And it was called cocaine mouthwash. Compounded cocaine in a liquid solution, and it was awesome. So over the course of 3 weeks, 3 repeats,
You really liked the mouthwash.
I deeply liked, and I knew it at the time.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
I know what I'm doing, but I wanted to feel some
reprieve.
I wanted to see some color. And so I sort of got to the end of that journey. I threw the bottle in the bin and realized I don't have any left. I have to come off this. I know I'm going to have some withdrawals. And mate, for the next 4 days, I didn't sleep. I was irritable. I simultaneously wanted to sprint everywhere, but also lie on the floor and do nothing. It was the strangest, most polarizing feeling I've ever had. But the worst part was what was happening in here. I consider myself a pretty optimistic person, even before cancer and before my operation. But I didn't think I was capable of thinking that dark. I convinced myself in those 4 days coming down from cocaine mouthwash, I convinced myself that I wasn't worthy and that the cancer probably should have taken me and that I would forever live as a scab on humanity for the rest of my life. And there was one day in particular where the thoughts got to me, and I was lying on my lounge room floor, metaphorically looking at my reflection in the ceiling, and the man that I saw staring back at me, I hated him. I hated everything about the man that I was. I was thinking negatively. I was thinking insular. I didn't have that 10,000-foot view that I have now. But because I felt so low, it forced me to make a choice. And people often ask me, how do you get back up? How do you keep moving forward? And sometimes I honestly think you are forced to. The universe puts you in a situation for you to go, this is my turning point. This is the one. And that was it for me. And that day I made a choice. I made a choice to be better. I made a choice to not be a victim of my cancer and to never blame my cancer for who I am and who I want to be. And ever since that day, I've been living by that choice. And then something really funny happened. Is over the course of a number of years, it doesn't happen overnight. The voices that were in here, they changed, and they changed to positivity. They changed to me speaking to myself in the third person, almost as if I gave myself an alter ego. And because I was thinking differently, my experience was different. Opportunities were opening up in front of me, left, right, and center. Perhaps they weren't opening up, but perhaps I was just seeing them for the first time. and I followed them. I did things that made me uncomfortable. I did things that challenged my character. And one thing that I'm forever grateful for is that during that time, I stepped into a gym for the first time. And I fell in love with the beautiful adaptive nature of our body. And I fell in love with the feeling you have, the power you have knowing that you can make this flesh vessel better.
Mm.
And you can choose to do that. And for the next however many years, that's what I devoted my life to. Understanding how to adapt, how to apply movement to people who need it, but how to apply it to make that person not just have a six-pack and have biceps, but apply it to a person to change their inner thoughts too.
It's a vessel
Mm-hmm.
to improve the way you think.
Mm-hmm. Someone told me, someone very woo-woo said, yep, it's a flesh vessel that's draped over a soul. But if you can affect the soul, the flesh vessel will take care of itself.
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that. You're dedicated, you're in remission. You dedicate, now you're focusing on fitness, movement, health. As the years progress, are you at peace with the cancer and the result of that? How are you feeling about that?
It changes you. And I think anyone who's gone through it will understand this, that whenever you feel something you've never felt before, whether it's an ache in a joint or an itchiness in a certain part of your leg, your mind will immediately go, it's back. And that introduced a whole new level of anxiety to me. And I was a relatively anxious person as is, but now there's another layer on that. And as irrational as it sounds, and that's just sort of the way the brain works. It's been to that brink. It's understood. It's stared at its own mortality in the eyes. And as a result, it's now got this fight or flight mechanism that kicks back in almost immediately. But I suppose my cancer journey into where I am now, the cancer's gone away. The odds of it coming back, we don't really know. We don't know why it popped up in the first place. But the wonderful people at Peter Mac Cancer Centre in Melbourne, they did the whole process. We did the monthly scans, the bi-monthly, the quarterly, the 6 months, the 12 month, and then that day comes where they say, "Hey, we don't need to see you anymore." Yeah. And that process went as smoothly as it could. They said that if it did come back, I don't know how they know this, it would come back in my lungs. So I've always had an awareness of, strange to say, an awareness of my lungs and I suppose a compulsion to make my circulatory system, my lungs, my heart, my blood vessels, my veins, make that as healthy as it can be, which I suppose is a good thing in a way. But I suppose the other anxiety I have with the history of cancer is how would that affect my children and my family, and we don't know, because my mother had breast cancer a few years ago, and she went through the battle and came out with flying colours. Her father, my grandfather, has had skin cancer issues, so there's some sort of genetic predisposition on that side of the family, and I'm very similar to my grandfather. He too was an actor, was on television for ages. So there's a few strains that are generational. But I suppose the way that cancer affects my life now is just that anxiety around, is it going to come back? And it can come back in an instant, and me going into that sympathetic nervous system state within an instant.
Talk to me about your wife, and I guess the second chapter of what's shaped you in a way to see take this ownership piece and not to be a victim and to write your own story.
I hope she doesn't listen to this, but I joked about it. Actually, I made the one cardinal sin of personal training. So when I got into fitness, Jane was my client. And
here we go.
I won't say too much, but we trained together for years. It was 5:45 p.m. on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
That's cute.
In Melbourne. And I remember, for whatever reason, those times of day and times of week still, I don't know, they give me that feeling in my stomach.
When it's a 5:45 on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's really cute.
It's very, because I was, and I didn't know at the time, I was an utter professional when I trained her, sure. and she knows that too, but it was after my operation, I had lots of infection issues. I had a really slow growing infection in my jaw, and it required a number of penicillin pumps. I don't know if you know what they are, but basically it's a pump you wear 24/7. You get penicillin shot into your system every 4 hours. Awful, right? Awful. So I was in hospital getting that changed over or put in, and then they go, "Bart, you have a visitor." You know, oh, that's nice. Someone's come to say hi, and it was Jane, and she came in with the biggest bucket of pumpkin soup that I have ever seen, and she goes, "I brought you this," and that's the moment I went, oh, "Okay, I see this for what it really is." And I must say, she is really persistent and very pragmatic. I think I've been so traumatized by. And either consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, but I know I've been traumatized by what's happened to me with my cancer, that my survival mechanism was to push everyone away and white knuckle it, grit my teeth and just get through it. So much so that I know it was a detriment to a lot of my relationships. And Jane knew that. She really fed this relationship early on when I didn't understand how to communicate or love. And so she in a way showed me just what love is and how much love you can have for someone in this world. We met through fitness. We still share this beautiful connection. A lot of couples will get a babysitter and go to the movies or go to dinner, but we'll often get a babysitter on a Saturday morning so that we can train together.
Cute.
And we'll keep that. We love that connection. I knew very early on that she was the one and that we were going to start a beautiful family of ours.
Why do you think she was able to see through and be persistent and be able to show you love whilst you were going through that transition piece of cancer and remission? Why do you think she was able to see that?
She's innately very both fiercely intelligent and fiercely emotionally intelligent, and she's had a lot of training under her belt, not necessarily from behavioral psychology, but from management and what have you. But I just think that comes down to her. If it was a different person who wasn't in that state and didn't have those emotional skills or that emotional perception, I wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be together. I don't think there's a specific reason why she saw it. That's just who she is, and she's like that with a lot of people too. And I really respect that about her, and I really respect that about a lot of people. Like they can see through subtext, and they can see through the bullshit, and they can sort of get to the point. And if that's not a person that they want to be around, they won't shove it in their face, but they'll move on. So I think, to sum up, mate, I think I was just lucky. It was great timing with a great person.
That's incredible. So then you think, I struggle with this story. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Then you decide to have children. Take me through that.
We had so much love to give each other that it just felt selfish to keep it between the two of us. And so adding a third to that family to share that love and build that love legacy, it just made sense. And we're at a time in both of our lives where it needed to happen, pretty soon. Luckily enough, I think because of the beautiful, healthy lifestyle that we lead, we're very compatible in that sense. And Jane soon fell pregnant, and look, we were so happy. We were ready to go on this journey. We were ready to make our family. We found our home on the Sunshine Coast. It was a perfect time. I suppose all of that made the 20-week scan a really bitter pill to swallow. At the 20-week scan, we found out that our little boy was sick. He didn't have any kidneys, and he didn't have any lungs. He had about 10% of his lungs. And he, for all intents and purposes, was a very sick little boy. And it sounds really harsh, but you understand why they do it. In that situation, the parents are given a choice, but are encouraged a certain way. And the choice was to end the bub's journey there for a cleaner grieving process, or to see what that journey was, to give the keys of the car over to the little boy and see where he drives. And it sort of shames me to think about how long we've thought about that. We're very close to going to the encouraged decision of that choice, but we couldn't live with ourselves without knowing what his story was. We just couldn't. Whether it was good or bad, we wanted to know the natural truth. And so we let our boy write his own chapter. And so at that point, they gave him 7 days. They said he won't survive the week. And then 1 week turned into 2, 2 into 3, 3 into 4. And then at that point, he actually started getting better. He didn't pop out any kidneys, and his lungs didn't just appear, but every other vital sign was positive. And we know that's him thanking us for the decision that we made. We felt that connection. And it's funny, he was a wriggler. All our babies are wrigglers. They're very active like their parents, but he was most active in the doctor's appointments. Just to let him know, hey, I'm still here. I'm fighting. And so we gave our boy, we named him Aurelian. We gave Aurelian the best 16 weeks that we could, and he made it full term, which was in itself a miracle.
So when you say 16 weeks, you mean they gave him 7 days post 20 weeks? Is that what you mean?
Correct, yeah.
In whilst he's growing in mum's.
Yeah, we gave him 16 weeks from that point. So 36 weeks all up.
Yeah.
And so
he came full, he made it full term.
He made it. And the day of his birth, mate, it was one of the most polarizing feelings I've had, because we wanted to meet him. We spent all this time getting to know him. Every mum knows this. They have a personality before they enter the world. But we also knew the reality of what was about to happen. He didn't have any kidneys, he didn't have any lungs. Mate, and then what happened next is something close to magic. He came out, and on 1/10 of his lung capacity, he cried. He hung in there long enough to say hello and goodbye to his mum and dad. And we never would have had that. We never would have met him, and we never would have given him the chance to meet us if we had have made that easy choice. And that's, mate, this is why this is the power of choice. Sometimes we need to make a tough decision, and we don't know where that tough decision is going to end up. We need to make a decision that hurts in the moment, but might bring us peace in the future, even though that peace isn't guaranteed. But because of that decision we made at the 20-week mark, our boy had a legacy.
Thank you for sharing that. It hits me so hard, and I think the inspiring part about that is, like you just said, is like, I think a lot of people push away the T intersection of making choices and taking ownership of that because it's uncomfortable, because it's hard, because it's not something that's just going to guarantee a great outcome. It's just so challenging. And for you both to have the strength to be able to see that, what it was, to make the difficult decision in any event, man, it's so commendable. I can't, I try to be as empathetic as I can as a human, but I can't even get close to understanding what that day been for both of you.
It was tough. And that's something that I think about a lot, mate. I think about him. I think about him in that moment, and him in the moments after. And that sometimes that keeps me up at night. But sometimes you just need to keep that out of mind. His legacy doesn't end there. And I think this is the proudest part of my entire life, of my entire journey. We got to spend 7 days with him in Queensland's only children's hospice. It's called Hummingbird House. In fact, I think at Coles at the moment they're running a fundraiser for Hummingbird House. You'll see it about this time every year. And we donate a lot of money always. And this place is magic because you walk in and you know what it is. It's a hospice for kids. But you walk in and you see colour and you hear laughter. It's an amazing environment. And because of them, we got to have a little bit of closure. We got to change his nappy. We got to change his clothes. We got to swaddle him. We got to have time, which we couldn't. We never would have had that We never would have had that moment if we didn't make
Yeah.
that choice. And then on the last day at Hummingbird House, I felt depressed isn't the right word. I felt grey. I felt like I couldn't see colour. Cancer aside, this was very tough. On the 7th day of Hummingbird House, I was lying on my lounge room floor, funnily enough, and I needed a way to be close. I needed to do something. I needed an action. I needed to choose to do something that would help the situation. So that day I wrote him a workout, which is something very fitting from a guy like me. And the workout details a little bit of his story in every single rep. The reps are in a certain way, the exercises are in a certain way, and the workout is very hard on your lungs because that's what got him in the end. And so when you're doing this workout, you feel that burn in your lungs and you feel that urge to either stop or slow down, but you look up and you can see him and you can feel him. And so every year on his birthday, we do this workout. Not to get a better time every year, not to see how fit we are, but to spend 30 minutes in a state that was close to where he was in that time. And then something even more amazing happened because of this workout and because of this story. People came to us and they told us about their infant loss story and their miscarriage story. And it's so ubiquitous, mate. It affects a lot of people. And then all of a sudden his workout became a workout for all the little ones that didn't get their time. And I'm so proud of him for that. I'm so proud of the way that we managed this situation. I'm so proud of his fight, and I'm so proud of what his legacy has become, because it's become something bigger than himself. We've made the love greater than the loss. And it's a heavy burden. Every year his birthday rolls around and we're reminded and we do the workout. And it's like you can never prepare for it. It's just that week is here. And it was just a few weeks ago. And it was heavy. There was a lot of exercise, obviously, but the pain is more in here than in the muscle. But I don't know, mate. It's a strange feeling. It's polarizing.
You then went, but you have children as well.
Yes. Aurelian, named after Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher. It's a French derivative and actually means little golden one. And when he came out, he had very fair hair. It almost looked red. It was very fitting. But since then, he has a younger brother named Lysander, who is 2 years old, and just living the legacy of his brother every single day. We can tell that Aurelian is around. And we know that they've been playing together and he's guiding him, and there's a big connection there. And we're lucky enough now that Jane is 24 weeks pregnant again. And that journey after Aurelian was a really tough one too, because we didn't know, we did every genetic test. We're in a couple of studies at the University of South Australia about Aurelian's passing and genetically what's the problem, and from what they can tell, we have no idea. And so going into a second pregnancy was a little bit of a risk, emotionally, obviously, but also physically. But it just felt right. And Lysander is the happiest and healthiest and strongest little boy that you'll ever see. Fair, just like his bigger brother, just as regally and just as theatrical as his dad. That's for sure.
And do you know what you're having?
We don't.
Oh, wow.
And so we did the same with Lysander. We love the idea of not knowing, and on the day having a very big surprise.
Yeah.
We don't get these surprises in life much anymore, mate. We both have a very strong feeling it's a boy.
Yeah.
But that's all we know.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah, of course.
It could be anything.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Thanks, mate.
Really, really, really pumped for you guys. As 3 being the relevant number, I guess. Talk to me about what's transpired for you personally, I guess.
There's a third chapter of my life that it's still being written, I should say. And I thought I was out of the woods after Aurelian and after the whole cancer thing, but I've always known that my legs are skinny. Below my knees, there's not much. There's not much feeling. There's not much muscle, and it seems to be going in the wrong direction. And it started about the age of 19. But I wasn't really active then. I was more active a bit later, but I was by no means inactive. And this loss of muscle just didn't make sense. Specifically, the calves, the foot, the ankle around there. So much so that at acting school, I was called lurch. I couldn't move. I couldn't move like the others. I didn't have fluidity in my movement. I got a role in a play called Barassi, and I thought this is it. So Ron Barassi is a great football player, coach, one of the greatest the league has ever seen. And I wrote a stage play about him, and I got a role in the play. But in the first week of rehearsals, I got fired because I couldn't do the choreography
Yeah, right.
because of my legs. And so I always knew something was wrong. They were getting smaller. They were becoming more numb. Life shouldn't be that way, particularly if you're as active as I am. And so 3 years ago now, I decided to figure out. 4 years ago, because it was because of Aurelian. I needed to know, I needed to understand that what was happening in me isn't the thing that affected him. So I went and saw a neurologist, and she did the poking and the prodding, and she was actually very quick to diagnose me with hereditary motor and sensory peripheral neuropathy, also known as Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. So it means I'm losing the use of my peripheral nervous system, my feet, my hands, and my legs. Mainly occurs in males, and normally symptoms start in the 3rd decade of life, so everything matches up in my experience. But it means that I'm slowly losing my balance. The symptoms are getting progressively worse, and I just thought that's how life was. Deadlifts and overhead presses in the gym in particular are becoming much, much harder for me now because I don't have the calf support to stand up straight or keep my balance. They think that a part of the anxiety and sometimes depression that I feel is a result of it. My nerves are always trying to find balance. They're always trying to find stability, and they can't. Because the brain is a big part of the nervous system, it gets affected by that instability. I struggle to control my internal temperature. So if it's too hot, I malfunction. So some workouts, I'll quite literally black out and just stop. My legs will stop, and I can't move. Doesn't last long, but it happens. But the weirdest symptom is restless leg syndrome. So I have nerve pain almost constantly from my hip down to my toes. At low level, it manifests as like an itching feeling. If you've ever had growth pains before, it's so irritating, and it often happens at night. So my sleep is quite compromised because of this urge to move and stretch my legs. Certain medications and supplements can help, but it's always low level, sort of always there. And I suppose this only happened 3 or 4 years ago, and I know I'm still digesting what this actually means.
Yeah.
It'll mean having some braces on my legs in the next couple of years. I have to get hand controls for my car. Some people end up in a wheelchair, but I think that the years of strength training and the years of movement, those active choices that I've made has slowed down the degradation. I once met a guy. He had the same condition. I walked up to him because I'm like, I know exactly what's happening with you. We have the same thing. Same age, same income, same super contribution. No, he had the same condition.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, mate, do you mind me asking, have you got Charcot-Marie-Tooth? He goes, yes, I do. And he was much further down the degradation road than I was. Look, I know you can't compare apples to apples. Everyone's experience is different. But I swear, the amount of stimulus my nerves have gotten because of the weights, because of the endurance training, the whole lot.
Yeah.
They've remained healthier for longer. I didn't know how to digest this, and so I have a guy that I call. He's a mentor. He's from the fitness industry, old school guy, does a lot of weightlifting. And I told him about the situation. I said, look, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. Help me.
Yeah.
And he goes, Bart, you don't understand it yet, but you are the donkey in the well. He speaks in like parables, so I had to get him to explain. And there's a parable of a story of a fable, I should say, of a donkey in a well. A farmer wakes up. There's an old donkey in the old well. The farmer goes, well, the donkey's old, the well's old. Let's just fill it in and call it a day. So him and his farmer friend start shoveling dirt in on the donkey. And at first, the donkey's irate, hooving at the walls, trying to get out. And then after a while, it's silent. And so they keep shoveling dirt in on the donkey and still silent. So one of the farmers looks in and he sees that every time the dirt lands on the donkey's back, he just shakes it off and then steps up on the pile of dirt, shakes it off and steps up. And does that long enough until the dirt's high enough.
He walks out.
Donkey walks out and lives a life, a happy life to the end of his days. And the lesson I took from that is that life will shovel dirt on you. As you said, the rug will be pulled out in some extent. Pain is inevitable. It's the human experience. But every time you feel that weight, you too have a choice. You have a choice to pretend it's not there and let it bury you. Or, like the donkey, you shake it off and you step up. And I don't know how deep this well is. But as soon as I either blame the farmers for shoveling the dirt on me or blame the world for putting me in this situation, I'm going to get buried. And so every time I trip over my toes, because I can't move them anymore, every time I run into a wall, every time I can't control my internal body temperature for whatever reason, I choose to be bigger than that and shake it off and step up. And that's where I'm at the moment. Because of this keynote speaking world and the message I have and the compulsion I have to tell it, I've been telling this story a bit more, and there are thousands of people around the world who have this condition, and they feel lost. They don't have someone who can tell them to be the donkey in the world. So I'm finding great empowerment in telling this story to inspire them, that we're not stuck. When in your highest of highs and your lowest of lows, we're never stuck. We always have a choice. And even if that choice is just to shake it off and step up, then that's a bloody good choice.
Yeah. But this has been such an inspiring chat. You are I know people would say that to you, and I don't often say it, but I'm lost for words to describe. Yeah, just I don't even know what to say, man. Yeah, I don't even know how to summarize it, but all I can say is thank you for coming on, sharing. I can only help and try to help get you more places to speak at more places, because we are all better off by listening to you and learning just how to shake things off and have that courage and challenge that status quo of the general default being victim, being scarcity mindset, being dirt's coming in, I can't do anything about it. But just hearing your story and what you've worked through and what you've gone through, and still being able to just shake it off and step up. That doesn't discount what you've gone through, goodness, but the strength to be able to do that. And I can appreciate that being able to inspire others through that journey is so empowering for you. And I can't hope for every success in it. Truly. If there's anything that I can do, I will absolutely move as much as I can, as little input that I can have in getting you there. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you, mate.
Before you go, 5 questions, quick fire.
Let's go.
What does success mean to you? On the side, by the way, you are the head coach of Jets Australia. Not even of the whole Jets Australia, of all of the franchises in the country, you are the head coach of fitness for Jets Australia.
Mate, I told you, I'm obsessed. The beautiful adaptive nature of the human body. Fitness is my life, mate.
Crazy. We've just skipped over that whole piece. Anyway, you're a weapon. Absolute weapon. Okay, what does success mean to you?
It means peace.
What does happiness mean to you?
Having purpose.
A book that you could recommend?
The Biology of Belief.
Okay.
Bruce Lipton, I think the author is, if I recall. Okay. Great book about this.
If you could invite 4 people to dinner, not family or friends, who would you invite?
One would be Eugene Sandow. He's currently this is weird, but he's currently if you look at the statue of the Mr. Olympia, the bodybuilding competition, he's the statue, old school strongman, was the start of lifting weights and fitness in the commercial world. Richard Branson, for very obvious reasons. I want to pick that man's brain just a little bit more. Ronnie Radke, you're learning a lot about me. He is the singer of a band called Falling in Reverse. He's a very controversial figure in the metalcore scene. I just want to be in his presence.
You're into metalcore?
Yeah.
Okay. This is good. We should have started with that.
I'll know for next time.
Yeah.
And then let's go something. Jim Carrey, actor.
Perfect. What a dinner.
What a dinner.
And then finally, a person you think we should have on the show.
Mm-hmm. My coach. His name's Brett. He's a level 4 CrossFit coach. And if you want to nerd out on, if you think I'm good at fitness, just add a bit of woo woo, add a bit of experimentation, and you'll have Brett.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bart Walsh, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, mate.
That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. If anything we discussed today with Bart resonated with you or someone that you love, please feel free to share the episode. It's really important to get this message out and be resilient together. Until next time, peace.